Judy note, the Brunson Supreme Court case has become one of the most talked about constitutional challenges in America First and pro-Constitution circles. The lawsuit centers around the certification of the 2020 presidential election and the actions of hundreds of elected officials who allegedly failed to uphold their oath to defend the Constitution. What makes the Brunson case extraordinary is not only its political implications, but the path it took to reach the nation's highest court. The Brunson brothers pursued the case pro se, meaning without attorneys, navigating one of the most complex legal systems in the world largely on their own. According to Brunson, the case initially faced major resistance inside the federal court system, including repeated procedural obstacles and attempts to block filings. In response, the Brunsons launched legal action against the Federal Court of Utah and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals themselves, forcing the issue further into the legal spotlight. The case ultimately reached the Supreme Court through Rule 11, a rare constitutional mechanism allowing the court to bypass standard appellate procedures when a matter is considered to carry exceptional national importance. Brunson believes this may be one of the only personal damage claims against government officials ever brought to SCOTUS through Rule 11 in American history. The case names 387 defendants, including Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mike Pence, and hundreds of members of Congress. According to Brunson, approximately 145 members of Congress, led by Senator Ted Cruz, requested a 10-day delay to investigate allegations of election irregularities before the electoral vote certification proceeded. The lawsuit argues that refusing to investigate those concerns before certifying the election represented a violation of the constitutional oath of office sworn by federal officials. For Brunson and his supporters, this is not merely a political disagreement, it is a constitutional crisis. This case represents far more than one election cycle. It represents a battle over constitutional accountability, government power, election integrity, and whether public officials remain bound by the Constitution itself. Brunson's fight has become part legal battle, part constitutional movement, and part cultural awakening for Americans demanding greater transparency from their government. For Brunson and his supporters, the mission is simple: restore accountability, restore constitutional order, restore the promise that no public official stands above the law. And in today's America, that message is resonating with millions of people who believe the country is standing at a historic crossroads. Bombshell Special Report. A different battle has begun. Brunson's explosive constitutional showdown could rock Washington and expose 387 members of Congress. Judy note, if the Supreme Court rules in favor of Brunson, it automatically dissolves the entire U.S. administration and all of Congress, both on the state and federal levels, leaving nothing but martial law to rule until new and fair elections can be held. This demand by citizens for more transparency was made even more important in the present CIA mind control program that has been seeping U.S. taxpayer dollars in a CIA black budget accountable to no one but the cabal since the end of World War II, taxpayer monies used to mind control the people. Declassified CIA documents have revealed a covert psychological warfare program intended to drug entire populations using food, water, vaccines, and everyday items. This is the authentic MK Ultra battle for control over human minds. Project Artichoke formed the initial blueprint for these civilian-targeted operations. The program later became known as MK Ultra. Wars, Wars, and Rumors of Wars. Monday, May 18, 2026, President Trump has called off tomorrow's planned attack on Iran at the request of the leaders of United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, who believe a deal can be negotiated. He has also instructed the Department of War to be ready for the next round of strikes if a deal is not reached. QAnon evidence on Telegram. Trump has demanded immediate peace negotiations to end the Ukraine-Russia war. In reality, it's a declaration of war on the deep state. Secret talks between Ukrainian generals and Russia hint at a peace deal already made that bypasses NATO entirely. What we thought we knew but didn't really know, and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies, Hollywood style, and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. President Trump declared Sunday, May 17, 2026, the nation's 250th birthday, a national day of prayer to rededicate America as one nation under God. As of that same Sunday, May 17, 2026, the privately owned by foreign bankers Federal Reserve of 1913 was dead, as was the IRS. With Powell out, Warsh in, and the U.S. Treasury taking control of U.S. taxpayer dollars, the markets were bracing for a world economic reset, 0% income tax, 0% property tax, 0% gains tax, through the global currency reset to gold/asset-backed currency, which was being released right now. U.S. taxpayer monies will be collected and dispersed under the states and new gold-backed U.S. Treasury via tax on buying new items only, none on medicine, groceries, or housing. Australian mechanical engineer John Christie and his electrician friend Lou Britz worked hard through the 90s to come up with their own version of the magnetic generator. In 2001, they launched it to the public as the Lutech 1000, a device capable of generating 24 kilowatts of electricity, enough to power a few houses. Monday, May 18, 2026. Fox News. The DOJ has just obtained evidence that the 2020 election was rigged against Trump, and investigations were ongoing. Possible timing. On Monday, May 18, 2026, Zim redemptions and GCR funds available. On Tuesday, May 19, 2026, full quantum financial system goes live, locking down corruption forever. Debt jubilees freeze humanity. On Wednesday, May 20, 2026, Trump declares Republic restored. Global arrests of elites and P.S. intensify under martial law as the new era of freedom and health dawns. On Friday, May 22, 2026, the gold/asset-backed currencies of 209 nations in the quantum financial system rebirths from the old fiat global financial system. Trump unveils plans for total independence from globalists. Tuesday, May 26, 2026, the final sequence activates. 48-hour blackout countdown to Thursday, May 28th, Monday, June 1st, or Wednesday, June 3rd. EBS override ready. Stay home order incoming. Sunday, July 19th, 2026, the same day as the FIFA World Cup final, Michael Jackson will return. He is not dead but been in the Victim Witness Protection Program. EBS, blackout, martial law, lockdowns. Monday, May 18th, 2026. 72 hours, 24 hours equals now. The final countdown has begun. Starlink has executed total control of global communication satellites. All deep state backdoors have been severed. The EBS primary signal is live and locked, awaiting a final white hat go code. Last night's raids were historic. Multiple high-value targets extraction complete. Certain names you've heard for decades are no longer walking free. Their assets are frozen, their networks are dead. The quantum financial system is now the only operational financial system on the planet. Legacy banks are ghosts, empty shells with no power. Humanitarian and redemption funds were moving through secured military channels as we speak. The 10 days of darkness has officially started. This is the controlled silence before the greatest truth reveal in history. Every communication device on the planet will go dark. Every screen will show one thing when it returns. What will happen when a blackout will trigger the biggest unprecedented event, the global martial law? 1. The military will declare global martial law. 2. They'll make sure people get food. 3. Planes and trains will be grounded to cut off the cabal's reach. 4. Power will briefly flicker as the world shifts to Tesla-free energy. 5. Military tribunals and confessions will be broadcast for 10 sessions, 8 hours each. 6. Then the internet will shut down for 10 days of communication blackout. Monday, May 18, 2026. Shutdown masks the final transfer. While the public thinks the government is on hold, high-security operations are moving at full speed. Unmarked convoys leaving federal complexes at night, carrying sealed containers and classified files to underground military facilities. Treasury insiders report massive data migrations from legacy bank servers into QFS nodes. Accounts being reconciled and hidden assets tagged for public release under NESARA/GCR. IRS central databases offline. Teams inside buildings cataloging evidence of tax fraud, black budgets, and secret slush funds. Every dollar will be tracked and exposed. In several states, federal courtrooms dark but not empty. Night sessions held under military oversight. Sealed indictments being unsealed and resealed ahead of mass disclosure. QFS test payments already hitting foreign partner banks under shutdown cover. This is not a drill. The transition has begun quietly. The shutdown is the curtain. Behind it, the old system is being gutted and the new one is already humming. What the world will see next will break the illusion forever. Global currency reset. The QFS went live on May 8th in 209 countries. Each sovereign citizen is issued a quantum wallet that is preloaded with their birthright value, which is derived from your birth certificate bond, your lifetime tax contributions, and the interest stolen from you since 1971. On Friday, May 15th, 2026, Tier 4B notifications started at redemption centers established in 12 states. Monday, May 18th, 2026, ZIM redemptions and GCR funds available. Behind the scenes, a parallel global financial system is believed to be operating, fully aligned with ISO 20022, synchronizing in real time with the legacy framework. Every transaction mirrored, every asset reconciled, every inconsistency corrected. If a new financial world is already being recorded on a compliant, structured ledger, then Tier 4B was never waiting to start. It has been building quietly, long before public access was allowed. On Tuesday, May 19, 2026, full quantum financial system goes live, locking down corruption forever. Debt jubilees freeze humanity. The 800 numbers to set exchange and redemption appointments were waiting for one sign: Trump walking into Fort Knox on camera and opening that 20-ton door. When he opens it, the EBS fires, locking the QFS. When the QFS locks your debt disappears. When your debt is gone, you are liberated. Unlawful interest on loans, credit cards, $100,000, $450,000 to the average American, was being encoded into your QFS ledger as we speak. Friday, May 22, 2026. The audit is complete. Results are classified. What they discovered changes everything. On Monday, May 18, 2026, Trump sat with Cheryl Atkinson and said, "I want to go to Fort Knox. I want to see if there's gold in there." Then he said, "They steal a lot." He wasn't guessing. He was telling you that. 147.3 ounces. That is what is supposed to be there. Real value at $4,700 an ounce, $692 billion. But the audit team that came in on March 14th under Executive Order 14271 found more. Nowhere on any ledger. Gold repatriated from the Vatican Bank, from the Bank of England. This is the gold that backs your new currency. The QFS went live on May 8th in 209 countries. Each sovereign citizen is issued a quantum wallet that is preloaded with their birthright value, which is derived from your birth certificate bond, your lifetime tax contributions, and the interest stolen from you since 1971. Running. Article 21 of GCR, Debt Nullification. The algorithm is computing every mortgage, every student loan, every credit card charge with unlawful compound interest. $100,000, $450,000 to the average American. That number is being encoded into your QFS ledger as we speak. Trump said, "I want to see the gold," because he wants you to ask why. The answer, the gold is there, and $43 trillion more, and it is yours. Tier 4 B notifications started 72 hours ago at redemption centers established in 12 states. Stacked 800 numbers were waiting for one sign: Trump walking into Fort Knox on camera and opening that 20-ton door. When he opens it, the EBS fires. The EBS fires, locking the QFS. When the QFS locks your debt disappears. When your debt is gone, you are liberated. They kept you as slave for 53 years. Every dollar you owed was a lie. Every interest payment was theft. The guy who said they steal a lot is about to prove it live on television. Judy note, we have been told that Wells Fargo, which is controlled by the Chinese elders, the ones who own the gold behind the global currency reset, will send out emails to currency and bondholders worldwide telling them how to set redemption and exchange appointments. It is advised to exchange/redeem your foreign currency at an official redemption center, RC, rather than a bank. You can only redeem ZIM at a RC, the dinar contract rate can only be given at a RC, and banks will offer you lower exchange rates than what you can obtain at a RC. You can only set up your new wallet, bank account, at a RC. It was my understanding that most banks were under control of the cabal and would soon play a different role in the global financial system. Re-inhabited Republic for the United States of America. On Thursday, March 5, 2026, the cabal foreign banker-owned U.S. Incorporated was dissolved, with common law sovereignty installed in the U.S. under concepts of the original Constitution. Admiralty law fraud was forever crushed. On July 4, 2026, President Donald J. Trump would make an announcement of this change to a sovereign republic based on principles of the original Constitution in a massive 4th of July celebration of the restored constitutional republic. What we think we know as of Tuesday, May 19, 2026. Monday, May 18, 2026. RFK Jr. Groundbreaking historic win for American health. For the first time in history, doctors will finally get paid to take patients off unnecessary medications, to de-prescribe harmful pharmaceuticals. No more rewarding over medication. This is the beginning of putting patients first, reversing polypharmacy, and delivering true healing. Wellness over pills. Freedom over dependency. Monday, May 18, 2026. In 1901, Nikola Tesla built a machine that transmitted energy through the earth. J.P. Morgan cut his funding the next day. Tesla discovered that the earth itself is a giant electrical conductor. He built the Wardenclyffe Tower in New York to prove that power could be transmitted wirelessly to any point on the globe. Free energy for everyone. When J.P. Morgan, who was funding the project, realized that wireless energy could not be metered and sold, he famously asked, "If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter?" Morgan pulled the funding. The tower was demolished. Tesla's patents were classified. The technology to power the world without burning a single drop of oil existed 120 years ago. It was not destroyed because it failed. It was destroyed because it could not be controlled. Monday, May 18, 2026. In January, Gavin Newsom ridiculed Dr. Oz for looking into hospice fraud in Los Angeles. Newsom claimed that he had the fraud under control and that Dr. Oz's investigation was purely political. Today, Oz announced that they shut down 800 fraudulent hospice businesses around LA and saved the taxpayer over $1 billion a year. Newsom has no business running for president. He's corrupt and totally incompetent. Monday, May 18, 2026. Sidney Powell calls out Democrats who were caught pulling out hidden suitcases filled with ballots from under tables in Georgia during the 2020 election after they cleared out the building and illegally ran ballots all throughout the night until Biden claimed victory. We have them on video, caught red-handed. The 2020 election was stolen. It's time to prosecute these people. Pastor Bob Joyce, Elvis? Monday, May 18th, 2026. Over 5 years after staged January 6th, the Democrats, including their propagandist, the state media still pushes the lie that police officers were killed that day, while ignoring the fact 4 Trump supporters died, including 2 women. Roseanne Boylan died after she was pepperballed, gassed, and brutally beaten by J6 police officer Lila Morris. Then, the Biden-Harris terrorist administration falsely labeled her death a drug overdose. They lied. The January 6th committee lied, and so did the mainstream media. Boylan's family is now asking for an investigation. Monday, May 18th, 2026. Fox News. Bombshell. Treason exposed. Biden's own DOJ just confessed he committed straight-up treason. A Romanian oligarch funneled $3 million in dirty bribes straight to Hunter to buy off the big guy himself. Joe Biden sold out America for cold, hard foreign cash. Monday, May 18th, 2026. Wells Fargo is turning the air you breathe into a nanobot surveillance prison to own your body and money. Patented smart dust will make every breath a biometric payment slave scan. US 113-54666B1. They call it smart dust. There's an airborne MEMS devices, microscopic sensors smaller than a grain of sand. These motes get released into the air around you. They swarm like invisible demons. They read your biometrics in real time. Heart rate, body temperature, voice patterns, motion signatures, facial images, even your electromagnetic field. All captured while you stand there thinking you are just buying coffee. These particles network together in mid-air. They form a temporary surveillance cloud around your body. They generate a unique authentication key from your living biology. Then they beam it back to approve your payment. Match the profile, payment approved. Do not match, you get flagged as a threat. This is not science fiction. One of America's biggest banks patented it, granted June 7, 2022. Originally a military battlefield spying tool, now deployed for everyday banking convenience. Breathe it in at the ATM. Inhale it at the store. It floats in the shared air around everyone. Invisible, deniable, always watching, always verifying, always reporting back. They filed this back in 2016. While the public was distracted with apps and digital wallets, the banks were building the ultimate control system. Payment equals total biometric surrender. Next time your transaction goes through seamlessly, ask yourself, how many of these smart dust particles just mapped your vitals and fed your data into the grid? Israel is last Monday, May 18, 2026. Thomas Massie says his election will decide whether Israel can continue buying off future American politicians. Israel is now expected to spend nearly $20 million to destroy Massie politically, after he exposed the Epstein files. Massey warns that Israel has become one of the biggest threats to American politics and says the influence must be stopped immediately. They get our tax dollars. Election fraud, Monday, May 18th, 2026. Arizona. After the 2020 Arizona election, Republicans were granted access to examine duplicate ballots and found that 2% off all ballots examined were switched from Trump to Biden or just taken away from Trump altogether for no reason. The Biden electors then called a special emergency hearing with the judge in an attempt to only have their attorneys examine the ballots and be kept secret from the public. This ridiculous request tells you everything you need to know. The 2020 election was stolen. Monday, May 18th, 2026. Jovan Pulitzer drops all the data and evidence of foreign election interference in the 2020 election. 65 foreign countries participated in attacking 7 key states and over 600 county polling locations. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, systematically gained control over the U.S. election system, described as a national security emergency. The CCP leveraged financial, non-governmental, and foreign allies, including Venezuela, to acquire influence and control over U.S. voting infrastructure in at least 28 states. Electronic voting machines were compromised and cannot be trusted to provide an accurate vote count. Millions of invalid ballots were inserted into the election. Voting irregularities and fraud occurred in 8 states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. Media reported hand counts are not real hand counts and are easily subverted. Removing the invalid ballots and forensically auditing the paper ballots would change the certified 2020 election outcomes at all levels: president, senators, congressional representatives. The only way to determine the real winners and restore confidence is a forensic audit of the paper ballots, the public's property, required to be held for 22 months. Pulitzer worked with Colonel Phil Waldron's team on this vetted data. The full report was released in January 2021 and is more than enough evidence to understand that our elections are compromised and that the 2020 election was stolen. Monday, May 18th, 2026. John Christie Electric Generator generates 24 kilowatts of free electricity. The John Christie Electric Generator was shown to the world in 2001, a device capable of generating a full 24 kilowatts of electricity. In this article, I will tell you about John Christie, the inventor, and how he and his friend Lou Britz came up with the generator. I will also explain to you how free electricity works and how you too can generate your own electricity at home too. John Christie and Lou Britz. Australian mechanical engineer John Christie and his electrician friend Lou Britz worked hard through the 90s to come up with their own version of the magnetic generator. In 2001, they launched it to the public as the LouTech 1000, a device capable of generating 24 kilowatts of electricity, enough to power a few houses. The main claim to fame at the time was that the LouTech 1000 was the first free energy machine to be developed to commercial stage anywhere in the world. This was perhaps an exaggeration as, although the device worked, it was far from being full tested and developed to the point where you could buy one off the shelf in the marketplace. How does free energy work? Part of the problem lies in the name. Free energy sounds almost impossible to believe. I prefer to call this concept zero point, as it is known in physics. Zero point is an area of physics that has been studied for over 100 years. Nikola Tesla, the man who is called by some the grandfather of electricity, dedicated half of his life to studying 0 point. He even published his work, and it met with great approval. Unfortunately, his legacy in this area did not live on after his death, due to existing commercial interests using their power to bury it. 0 point speaks of obtaining energy without fuel from a source that is not widely acknowledged in conventional physics. It does this via the use of strategically placed magnets. Fast forward around a century later, and there has been a resurgence of interest in this area, especially in the last year or two. While Christie and Brits may have been a little premature with their commercial launch, real working generators are now being built by enthusiasts in their garages, right across the world, numbering somewhere in the tens of thousands and possibly more. How can you generate your own electricity? The average home does not need 24 kilowatts. In fact, a basic motor is easily constructed for next to nothing that can generate a good 7 kilowatts of power, which is more than enough for most households. The basic electric generator is a rotor, some magnets, and some electrical wiring. John Christie and Lou Brits made their own version, but I suggest you keep things very simple. In fact, I strongly recommend that you spend a nominal amount of around $50 on a good set of plans which will give you diagrams and step-by-step instructions on building your magnetic motor generator. Or you can try to do it for free, which will see you spending several months on your motor, all the while still paying your monthly bill to the power company. Monday, May 18th, 2026. Senator Tommy Tuberville says Barack Obama mass imported Somalis into Minnesota with the purpose of taking over the local government. He says this is how Ilhan Omar got elected, and the plan was to import so many more foreigners they could take over the federal government. First of all, why would President Obama be allowed to bring in 80,000 people from Somalia and put them in one area in Minnesota, which is Minneapolis? And it was all done by plan. It's a third world country. Not assimilate, to build their own neighborhoods, to overtake the local, state, and then federal government with Ilhan Omar. She's not even a citizen, but she's in Congress. I can't figure out how we've allowed this to happen. People that are non-US citizens to be in Congress, to be help making laws and voting on things? You know how we can easily fix these things from happening almost immediately? I'll tell you. No one that's foreign-born should be allowed to run for federal office in America. Make immigrants be here at least a full generation before being allowed to serve. Take it even further. No one foreign-born should be allowed to serve at any level in American government. Also, mandatory English.